Yeah, hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So let's go to the Google Cloud Consoles to create the Google Kubernetes Engine cluster. So if you see here, I am in the Google Cloud Console. I'm searching for Kubernetes cluster here now. So let me open in the new tab. I think while implementing the last demo, I have already deleted the last project. I mean the last project name. So while opening this Kubernetes cluster, it is throwing this error now. So I'm into, first of all, we have to create some project here. So let me go to the Google uh, Cloud Console and let me open the IAM admin. And here I have to go manage resources. Okay, because here we have to create the new project here. Yeah, you can see there is no project, so that's why I was getting this error. So let me create the new project here. So I can give the example like the project name would be CI/CD project. Let me click and create. So the project has been created. So let me refresh the page, or let me change the project name here. As I'm opening the Kubernetes engine for the first time in this project, so it is asking to enable the artifact registry API. So let me enable it. The reason behind it, like whenever you will create a new workload, so you will get two options, right? Like to take the image, whether you can take the image from the container registry or you can take it from the artifact registry. So you can say artifact registry is the replace of the container registry. So that's the reason it is asking to enable the API for the first time, because by default it is integrated with the artifact registry. Okay, so that's why it is asking to enable it. So it has been enabled. So let me refresh the page, or let me open the Kubernetes engine again. It is also asking to enable the Kubernetes engine API. Let me enable it. So while implementing the Kubernetes engine cluster, you will get two options: whether you can create the cluster through the Google Cloud Shell, or we have to implement this Google cluster, I mean the Kubernetes cluster, using the uh, command line. Okay, so instead of doing from the Google Cloud Console, so everything we have to do it from the from the Google Cloud Shell. I mean we have to create the cluster from the Google Cloud Shell, but whenever we'll implement or you create the workload, then we can do it from the workload. From the Google Cloud Console. Okay, so this Kubernetes engine API is being enabled, I think. Let me refresh the page here. Still it's taking some time to get enabled. Yeah, it is enabled now. Also from the console you can see it is asking to create the cluster. So as I told, I have to create the cluster from the command line from the Google Cloud Shell. But when I will create the workload, then I have to go Google Cloud Console. This GUI, then we can create the workload. Okay, so let me open this page here. So all the commands in my handy. Okay, so I will update it, all the commands in the video. So if required to take this code or command, you can take it. So let me copy one by one command. As we are using this Google Cloud Shell for the first time, it is asking to authorize. For every session, it will ask to authorize. So in the Google Cloud config list, if you see, we are getting all the details, like what is the project name, what is the account ID, okay, what is the environment. So we we have authorized now. Now we have to set the project. What the project name? It is our project name, CI/CD project 383510. So let me paste here, because we have to create this Kubernetes engine in this project only. So the project has been set. If you see the command here, it is the we are going to create the cluster. Our cluster name is the CI/CD cluster, and the machine you are taking it to a medium. Okay, and number of nodes 2. Okay, so we are taking 2 node here. So let me copy this command. And we are creating inside the zone Asia South 1. Okay. Let me change the text size because it is very slow. I mean, it's very looking very teeny. So let me increase the size here. I think it is visible. So it is the command you executed to create the cluster. So it will take I think 2 to 5 minutes to create the cluster. So once the cluster will be ready, then I will come back. Then we can create some workload. Okay. So let me come back within 2 minutes. Thank you. So now you can see here the cluster has been ready. Okay. So it's saying the cluster is running now, and the machine type is the E2 medium, and it is the master IP, and it is the location, and it is the cluster name. So let me minimize it, and let me refresh the page, so you can see my cluster name would be there. Yeah. So my cluster is created. So now the next step, like we can create some workload. Let me go to the workload. Yeah. So now we can deploy some of the containerized applications. Okay. So let me click on deploy. So we can go with the existing container image, because this image is already, it is the sample image that is already available. So the environment variable, so by default we can take as done. It is not required for the time being. Let me click on continue. And the nginx deployment, I mean the deployment name, so you can keep nginx because we are deploying the nginx IP. Okay, so namespace or default, and the label also can keep as it is. If you have the multiple cluster, then you have to select that. Okay, but here now we have only one cluster, so by default it is coming. So by default it is also selected. So just let me click and continue. Yeah. So in order to access this app, we have to expose. Okay, so that it will provide the public IP. I mean the load balancer public IP. So the load balancer IP we can access it. If you want to expose it now, we can expose it here now. Okay. If you want to do it later, also you can do it. Okay. So let me uncheck it so I can do it later. Let me deploy it. Because in order to access the application from the outside, we have to enable the node port or the load balancer. If I enable the node port, then I have to access through the node of the cluster. If you enable the load balancer, then it will provide the public IP, one of the load balancer IP. I mean the public IP of the load balancer. Then you can access that. So if you go to the service, we have not enabled the service. I mean, we have not exposed the port. So that's why you are unable to see it. Okay. So now we have to go to the workload. I told you on later also we can expose the port or we create the service. So I open the workload. We see it is giving the warning, or you can see the message to expose the port. Okay. So let me click on expose here. This port, it is for the load balancer. So we can access it using the load balancer colon port number like the 80. But our target port, like the our Nginx IP, is accessible. I mean, it's running with 8080. Okay. Let's keep service type as a load balancer. Here, if you see, there are three options: cluster IP, node port, and the load balancer. Load balancer will provide one public IP. You can access it. The node port is basically you can access it using the the node of the cluster, and the cluster IP, it will provide the internal IP of the cluster that only you can access from the container itself. Okay, from outside you can't access. So in order to access, so for here the time being, we can use the load balancer. You can take give any name, but here uh, I will go with the default one. Let me click on expose. So our cluster is being ready, like we created the cluster. Okay, then we created the sample workload. So now we are creating the service and exposing the port by enabling the load balancer. This third step is in the progress. It seems the port has been exposed and also the service is ready. Okay, so let me go to the service and ingress. So you can see the public IP of the load balancer. You can see the public IP of the load balancer. So let me click here so I can able to access the UI, the applications of the Nginx. Yeah, it's not opening because I think I did some mistake, because while opening the port, okay, I think this Nginx it is running using the port number 80, but while creating the service I expose I mean to connect it, I enter the target port is 8080. Okay, so let me change it. I can change it here. So let me click on edit, and once click edit, I am getting this settings in the YML format. So I can go to the end of the file. Yeah, the target port I mentioned 8080, but my application is running with the 80. Okay, because that is the web app, like equivalent to the Apache web server. Okay, the port is 80. Okay, this port is for the load balancer to access. Okay, this target port, that is for my containerized applications. Okay, so let me change it. I change it. Let me save it now. You can see the resource has been updated. I mean the service has been updated. If I able to refresh the page, I think I can open it. Yeah, you can see I able to open it now. So it means our cluster, our workload is working fine. So whatever things we did it now till now, those are we did in the manual things. Okay, so now we can automate the process for the workload. Okay, so thank you guys. So I'll connect in the next session so we can start the steps to to automate the things for the workload. Okay, so thank you guys. So I connect in the next session for the CI/CD pipeline. Okay, thank you.